Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Two Footer Tackle podcast. I'm your host, Ari Stamatakos, and unlike last week, I am slightly more jovial because my sporting teams decided not to break my heart this week. So that's a good start. But before we get into everything, I hope everyone has had a lovely week since we last spoke. I hope everyone's had a fantastic week. I hope all their sporting teams did them a solid, except the ones that I don't like, which is slowly dwindling now because I've realised that my sporting clubs just don't like me. So I'm just slowly becoming more apathetic towards sport and just kind of enjoying it from a neutral perspective, which is a lot less stressful. I'll tell you that for free. Watching sport, any sport, tennis, rugby, croquet, lacrosse, soccer or football, footy, any sport, watching it from a neutral perspective is 10 times better. I'll tell you that for free. But there was quite a bit to get through. As we will touch on. This actually got a lot of talking points. We're going to speak about the Arsenal documentary, which the final episodes were released at the back end of last week. So we'll touch on that. We'll touch on the UCL draw, not the Europa League or the Conference League, because to be frank, I don't care. We'll touch on the UCL draw. We'll touch on a couple of transfers that have happened or are going to happen or have all been been confirmed. Fofana to Chelsea, Antony to United, and Alexander Izak to Newcastle. There was 2 9-0 results over the weekend, which, I mean, that has baffled me how that's happened. Like, I just don't get it. And then we'll touch on the Pogba situation, which is quite bizarre. Who went into footed, of course, and then we'll preview the week. But before I start, I implore you all to follow the podcast on all the socials, 2 Footer Tackle Podcast on TikTok and Instagram, Twitter, TFTPod, on Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube, subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, like the podcast, notification bell so you don't miss any clips or any episodes, and all the audio platforms, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast. Give it a 5-star. It helps the podcast grow. And it makes me feel very good whenever I see a new like or a 5-star rating. It warms the heart, so that would be very much appreciated. And as you could probably have realised, I have changed the release time in terms of the podcast. Normally I should say, maybe in the past, it was 9 a.m. Melbourne time, and I've thought, stuff that, let's go 6 p.m. Melbourne time on Tuesday. And I think I'm going to stick with that from now on. Let me know your thoughts about that. If I should go back to 9, if I should go earlier, maybe 7 a.m. or 5 p.m. or whoever. I like the 6 p.m. I don't mind it. I feel like it gets a good balance between certain factors that I look at. So, I'm going to stick with 6 p.m. for now. It could change. I'm very impatient, so it really could change very quickly. But we'll just have to wait and see. So, let's just... I was going to mention something. Actually, yes, follow me on Twitter. Right, so I'm at the time of recording, I'm 3 followers away from 400 followers on Twitter. So at Ari_Y_Stammer, or just search up Ari Stamatakos on Twitter, it will come up. Chuck me a follow. Why not? I don't think I promote myself enough on this podcast. So yeah, considering that it is mine, Chuck's follow would be greatly appreciated once again. And let's see if we can tick over 400. That would be very nice. But enough of my dribble, enough of my rubbish. Let's crack into the episode, and let's actually start with the Arsenal Till I Die. That's not even the name of the fucking documentary. The Arsenal All or Nothing documentary. Now, I'll give my overall thoughts about it after I finish what I'm going to speak about. But it came out. Everyone was waiting in angst to watch his documentary, because considering the season that Arsenal had last year, it was bound to be entertaining. And I thought the best way to look at it is by looking at 5 things. So, by looking at 5 things we learnt. I learnt 5 things that I took out of Arsenal All or Nothing documentary. So, the Arsenal All or Nothing documentary, 5 things I learnt. Now, number 1 has to be Mikel Arteta is a bizarre genius. I think is probably the best way to describe him. We all saw, if you'd watched the documentary or you saw on Twitter, the whole heart and the brain holding hands and the little drawings that he does, and these other little quirks, like with the light bulb, plugging it in, saying like a connected team and whatever. Now, a lot of people maybe not making fun of it or mocking it, but I watched that documentary and have come out of it with a very, very positive opinion on Mikel Arteta. I think the way he conducts himself, I think his philosophies are very good, and I every time he spoke and every time he explained something, I felt confident in what he was going to say, and that I felt understanding of what he was going to say. So yeah, I feel like Mikel Arteta is a bizarre genius. I think is probably the best way. I put that in my run sheet. I feel like that's the best way to describe it. There's just something about him that just ticks. That ticks for me. And while he's not like the most proven manager, I think tactically he's very good. I think we all saw that tactically he lives and breathes football, right? So tactically he's going to be on point. Like the way he sees the game, the way he approaches the game, his philosophy around it is very positive, very attacking, very possession heavy, and very exciting, eccentric. And we've seen it with Arsenal already this season. They've played 4-1-4 and in quite blistering fashion in most games as well. So we've started to see that kind of philosophy that Arteta was trying to implement last year has really come to the fore this year. So Mikel Arteta, if Arsenal fans watched that documentary and didn't come out of it 10 times more confident in their manager, I'd be surprised, because he made a massive case for himself as being one of the best up-and-coming managers in Europe. And yeah, what really struck to him about me, no, that's not it, struck me about him, sure, was not only his tactical management, but his man management as well. I think he obviously can speak a couple of different languages. He speaks Spanish and English obviously very fluently, so he's able to really connect with some of the Brazilian players in the squad, with some of the Portuguese players in the squad. So with that, and also with his relatability, of course, the fact that he's young, only retired a couple of, maybe not a couple of years ago, but he wasn't that long ago retired. So he is relatable to the players, especially some of the older players like Granit Xhaka and Cedric and Lacazette. They can really kind of relate to him in a sense. And he also understands what the likes of Saka and Smith Rowe and even the likes of Sambi Lokonga, who we saw upset that he wasn't playing, one of the few players upset that they weren't playing, which I'll touch on a little bit later. He's able to relate to them and really kind of nurture them and understand where they're coming from, because he was in that position not long ago in football. While it has changed since Arteta was running around in the mid to late or early 2010s, late 2000s, it's still kind of similar, so he can relate to the players, which I think helps him and will hold him in good stead for a long time. So yeah, that was the number one thing I learned, was that Mikel Arteta is this bizarre genius that even his quirks and his kind of personality traits aren't traditional. They just seem to work somehow. And yeah, I think that's probably the best way to describe Arteta. So that was number one. Now, number two is that Rob Holding is too happy. He needs to be more angry. Now, for those who saw the episode where it was about him, I think it was one of the last two episodes, he's just too happy. He's too happy when he's not playing, which is like, yeah, who cares? He's happy, which is good. You want your players to be happy. But even the producer said at one point, you're the most happiest player in the squad. And while that's good, and this will be something I'll touch on a little bit in depth in my last point, while it's good that he's happy, which is great, he needs to be angry. He's a centre-back who has been in and out of favour at that club, has been at Arsenal for fucking however long, and has never really established a first-team place. Is he content with being a squad player? I don't think a footballer should be content with being a squad player. I think a footballer, especially playing for Arsenal, should drive themselves to be the best player in their position at the club. So for the fact that he's just constantly happy all the time, I'm sure he's living his best life, and I'm sure he's content with playing for Arsenal, earning tens of thousands of pounds a week, doing what he loves, and can't really complain. I feel like there's a level of duty there for him to kind of take it, maybe not more seriously, but kind of demand more from himself and demand more from his team and demand more from his manager to want to play him, because it is kind of just the same thing over and over again with Holding. Is like he plays, gets dropped, and then and then plays again. Someone's injured, he plays. Then he gets dropped. Then he makes substitute appearances in the 85th minute every game, and then he gets dropped, and then he starts because someone's injured. It's this rotating cycle with Rob Holding ever since he came into Arsenal, pretty much. And he's just content with that. I don't really understand it. I feel like for Arsenal, playing for Arsenal Football Club, you need to be motivated to be the best player in your position and be angry at the fact that you're not starting. So I'll touch on this a little bit later on in my last point. But yeah, Rob Holding, too happy. Although if I was earning 30 grand a week playing for Arsenal and not really having to do a whole lot, I'd be happy as well, in all fairness. But let's move on to point 3. And the third thing I learnt from Arsenal's documentary is that Aaron Ramsdale is the future. Now, Arsenal need to be very careful with Ramsdale, and they need to hold on to him as much as they can, because he's the future for them. He's a future England goalkeeper, in my opinion, and he's probably the future Arsenal captain, because what I saw in the documentary, I absolutely adored from Aaron Ramsdale. Now, we all know he wasn't in favour, wasn't starting at the start of last year, came in after the Man City game or after the Chelsea game, and has pretty much been the first choice, or has been the first choice ever since then. And what really struck me, I've said that twice and I haven't actually said it properly. What I noticed from Aaron Ramsdale was, I can't remember what game it was. It might have been against Everton, or I can't remember what game it was. But Arsenal won 2-1, comfortable win, no problems. But he was fuming in the dressing room that he copped the goal and didn't keep his clean sheet. Now, I just spoke about Rob Holding being too happy and being too content with his position. That shows the opposite for Aaron Ramsdale. That shows that he wants perfection. And while it's a tight line, you need to walk when being a perfectionist and being that player that is motivated by success and needs to be perfect every single time. I think Ramsdale was treating that really well. And what I saw from him was this motivation, this tenacity, this willing to do anything to be perfect. And when he's not perfect, even if he's a 9 out of 10 when he thinks he should be a 10 out of 10, that will get to him and that will drive him to be better, and that will drive not only him to be better, but that will drive his team to be better, because they're looking at Ramsdale, who, yeah, Arsenal won 5-1, but Ramsdale copped the goal and he's angry that he didn't get his clean sheet. And he's angry, he's frustrated, he wants to get better. Why can't we do that? I think that's what struck to me about Ramsdale the most, and we all know his exploits with his feet. We all know he's a pretty good ball-playing goalkeeper. The modern day kind of requires him to be that. And we all know his shot-stopping is very good at times. So, I feel like if he can just touch up a little bit of his goalkeeping game and just be a little bit more reliable, I think he will be definitely the future Arsenal goalkeeper for a decade, probably the next Arsenal captain, and almost most definitely the next England goalkeeper, who probably should be starting at the World Cup. I know he's got some stiff competition with Nick Pope, and Jordan Pickford will always be around that squad, but yeah, definitely on the plane and probably should be starting in Qatar for England, because what I saw in that documentary was very, very pleasing and kind of reassured the fact that it's not a persona. It's not he looks like he cares on the pitch, whereas behind closed doors he doesn't really give a fuck. It's not a persona, it's who he truly is, and he really wants to be the best, and he really wants to show everyone that he is an elite goalkeeper, and he's willing to go to no end to prove that. Tenacious, motivated, angry, willing to do everything to win, and willing to do everything to be perfect. And that's the mentality you need to have to succeed at the highest level, and that's the mentality that Arsenal players need to have to get Arsenal back to where they are. And like I said, I spoke about that with Rob Holding. I'll speak about this a little bit later on in my last point. Some players don't have that same motivation, and that will cost them. So, yeah, that was the third thing I learnt. Now, as I have a quick sip of water here. Right, okay. Number 4. The penultimate thing I learnt, and we were all waiting in angst to watch this episode. We were all waiting in angst to see how this developed. We all know Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. We all know the scenario around him leaving Arsenal or getting pretty much demoted from the first team squad, then leaving Arsenal in January. And the fourth thing I learnt rather is that Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is a spoiled brat. Now, we all know what had happened from an external perspective. We didn't know what happened from an internal perspective, and we got a glimpse of that in the documentary. And basically, he just left them high and dry. He was the club captain. He was the talisman of that squad, and for him to go AWOL and to just be completely disregarding of the first team and really be a selfish footballer really was concerning to see, and also kind of validated a lot of thoughts that I know I had and a lot of people had about him, that he's just this show pony, all about himself, self-righteous person, this pretentious person in a sense. And with all due respect to Aubameyang, because he's a fantastic footballer, he does not have that mental side of the game. Just doesn't. And Arteta was asked when was the moment. The producer asked him something along the lines of, when was the moment you knew you had to drop Aubameyang from the squad? And he was like, from the moment I looked at his eyes and looked that he didn't care anymore. To have that be so transparent, and for that to be, for your feelings to be so transparent that your manager doesn't really need to have a conversation with you, he can just look at you and look at how unmotivated you are and how much you don't care. Not good. And he's over 30 years old, but he's acting like a child. And yeah, I think a lot of people kind of were looking at, Arteta just needs to play Aubameyang, needs to play him. He was their top goal scorer the year before. I know we hadn't been playing well, and this would cost them top four and whatever. But I feel like this documentary kind of validated the points of, no, Arteta was well within his rights to drop Aubameyang and was well within his rights to really show no mercy and be like, all right, you don't want to be here, fuck off. And I think that's great. It shows that he's not a pushover. It shows that whatever he says goes, which I think is great. I think is the perfect thing that needs to be happening in that squad, because it's a lot of young players. It's a lot of players who might have an ego on them. It could, because they're so young and playing at such a good high level team and earning a lot of money, there might be a little bit of ego creeping into that squad. So for Arteta to stamp his authority and say, this club captain, top goal scorer, pretty much the best striker we've had ever since Thierry Henry, get out. You're not welcome. If you don't want to play, for the team, get out. So that was another reason why my number one point was what it was, because Arteta. Yeah, I came out of the documentary with a lot of positive thoughts on Arteta and a lot of negative thoughts of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. So that's the number 4. And the fifth and final thing that I learnt from the Arsenal All or Nothing documentary is that there is not enough competitiveness in that squad, which ultimately led to their downfall. Now, what I mean by that is, I spoke about it with Rob Holding, Mohamed Elneny, Alexander Lacazette. They don't care enough. That's what it boiled down to. They just did not care enough. And you saw Holding, he was content with sitting on the bench. Elneny, there was a period in the documentary where he was like, if I don't play, I don't play. It is what it is. And even Lacazette, we didn't really hear a lot about him, but he got dropped for Eddie Nketiah and wasn't really shown to be putting in the extra yards, putting in the hard yards to kind of right that wrong. He became snappy. We saw that fight in training, which was caused by him. He became snappy. He became angry at the fact that he wasn't starting, but not in a good way. He wasn't motivated by it. He was just soppy and moping around. So that ultimately led to their downfall, because when you have a squad that is challenging for top 4, while the starting 11 is important, the 7 on the bench and the 4, 5, 6 players, 7 players that aren't in the squad, they're arguably more important because they drive standards. It's all well and good for your first 11 to be exceptional. If the rest of your squad don't care and aren't pushing those players to get better, you're going to stagnate and you're going to plateau. That's what we saw with Arsenal. They got to a level where they were comfortable. The players didn't really care. They thought they would just coast because their spot was secured in a sense. And it ended up leading to their downfall. We saw Lacazette was just playing, didn't want to improve, wasn't really doing a whole lot, and it ended up getting dropped, right? And then you saw with Elneny, right? We saw that last year the midfield mix for Arsenal wasn't quite there. That's because, like we all know, Elneny isn't this gifted footballer, but he wasn't driving standards. He wasn't driving Xhaka to get better. He wasn't driving these players to really improve themselves. So that's, in my opinion, what cost Arsenal top 4. And after watching that, it was this lack of... After watching the documentary, it kind of validated my thoughts about it. This lack of competitiveness and this lack of want to win and this lack of, I'm going to do everything to win and I'm going to beats, I'm going to be the best player in my position. I don't care if you've just signed a midfielder for £100 million. I'm going to be the best midfielder in this team. There's none of that in that squad, and that, in my opinion, ultimately led to their downfall. So yeah, those were the 5 things that I came out of the documentary with. If I were to give my overall thoughts now, I think it was a good documentary. I liked it. I thought the production quality was good. I thought we saw the things that we wanted to see. Was it a little bit of a propaganda piece? Yes, because that's what all these documentaries are. You're never going to get an honest documentary like that is produced in the same way that these are produced. We saw with the Tottenham one, pretty much a Jose Mourinho shrine in a sense. But yeah, it was a good documentary. I enjoyed it. I would have liked to see it come out all in one go though, so I didn't have to wait fucking 4 weeks for the whole series to finish. But I enjoyed it. I hope they do another one. I think they are doing another one. I know they did one with City, so I should probably go and watch that. I watched the Tottenham one not long ago. Watch the Arsenal one just then. I know they've got some. I think they've got one on Juventus. I think they've got an Atletico Madrid documentary as well. So probably should go check those out as well. But yeah, I enjoyed the doco. Other things that I learnt from it, Colney is a great training facility. Some of the shit that was there, I was like, what the fuck? Kind of like, okay, like, yeah, weird. The injury issue was quite bizarre. Like, it seemed that they just were getting injured from nowhere, which was weird. Obviously, we saw Ben White was meant to miss only one game. I can't remember. It was like pretty late on in the season. Ben White was meant to miss one game, and then he missed 2, and then he missed like 3, I think. So, I don't know what's happening there. But, yeah, we saw an insight into the Cronkies. Well, Josh, not Stan. Edu I thought was presented pretty well. Arteta, like I said, presented pretty well. Saka, Smith Rowe, the young players were presented well. Nketiah was presented well. I thought Granit Xhaka was presented pretty well. Yeah, I thought a lot of players were presented well. In that doco, they did well to kind of protect their own players in a sense. But yeah, I know. Yeah, it was a propaganda piece to an extent, because it's never not going to be that. But yeah, it was a pretty good doco. I urge everyone to go watch it, go binge it. All the episodes are out, 8 episodes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes each. Yeah, very good documentary, very interesting and very insightful. I hope they do one about Chelsea. I think they have booked one for another club. I just want to double check that I'm either A, not making this up, or what team it was. It is, if I can find it. They've done a lot. They've done one on New Zealand, on the All Blacks. There you go. Newcastle, here we go. Newcastle in line to feature in Amazon's All or Nothing documentary series. That'll be a good watch. If that happens, I'm assuming that'll happen next season. I don't think it will happen this season that we've just started. If it happens next season, it could be a Newcastle team challenging for top 4 and getting new signings in and all this stuff. So that would be good to see. But yeah, those were my overall thoughts on the documentary. As we move on to our second, I knew this was going to be a lot. I've still got quite a bit to get through, so let's hurry this up a little bit. It was the UCL draw over the weekend. There's been obviously 8 groups were announced. Let's go through the groups one by one before I give the overall thoughts. Group A, probably the best group, I reckon, Group A, in terms of like just vibes. Ajax, Liverpool, Napoli, Rangers, adore that group. Group B, Porto, Atletico Madrid, Bayern Leverkusen, and Club Brugge. That's going to be a pretty competitive group. Group C, Bayern, Inter Milan, Barcelona, and I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce that team's name because I know it's not. So what I've done is I've just taken the graphic from the Champions League kind of like Twitter thing, and I don't know what club that is, but I'm not even going to attempt to try and guess where it's from because I just don't want to do that. Group D, Frankfurt, Tottenham, Sporting, and Marseille. That'd be a pretty good group as well. Group E, Milan, AC Milan, Chelsea, Salzburg, Dynamo, Zagreb. Group F, Real Madrid, Leipzig, Shakhtar, Celtic. Group G, City, Sevilla, Dortmund, Copenhagen. And Group H, Paris Saint-Germain, Juventus, Benfica, and Maccabi Haifa. Haifa, I think that's how you pronounce it. So yeah, there you go. I don't really consider any group a group of death. Probably Group C is the closest thing to a group of death, Bayern, Barca, Inter, and that team that I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce. So yeah, that's probably the group of death. Although maybe the Champions League is going to throw up all sorts of curveballs, so it's probably going to end up being Group A, the group of death, which is probably the best group in terms of you've got Ajax, Napoli, Liverpool, Rangers. Like the limbs, the away days are going to be great. Some of the games are going to be fantastic. I can't wait to see Rangers go to Anfield, go to Amsterdam, and really test some of the best sides in Europe. So, yeah, by the way, I've just looked at that team in Group C. Not even going to attempt to pronounce it because I know I'll be wrong. So, yeah. Let's go through each group, give thoughts. Group A, I think Liverpool finished top of the group. I just think Liverpool on European nights, they are a force, as I've just opened Football Manager on my laptop. So, I've misclicked there, and I've just opened Football Manager on my laptop. So, I can guarantee you the frame rate would have 100% gone down. Oh, no, it hasn't. It hasn't gone down. Well, there you go. So, as I close Football Manager on my laptop. But yeah, Group A, Liverpool will go through. I don't see them dropping. They'll probably drop points, but I don't see them capitulating. And I think the 9-0 win has kind of kickstarted their season in a sense. I feel like it starts now. So, yeah, Liverpool finished top. Now, second place is quite competitive because we all know Napoli and Liverpool have some history in the Champions League. We all know that group stage match a couple of years ago, as I closed Football Manager because I'm an idiot. Apologies if the frame rate issues had gone down in that past minute. I apologise. So yeah, Liverpool top, second place. We'd love to see Rangers get through. Is probably going to be, I reckon Ajax are a good shout. They've just lost Antony, which will hurt them, which we'll touch on later. I'll go Napoli. I'll play it safe and go Napoli. I think it'll be Liverpool, Napoli 1-2, and fuck it, Rangers will make Europa, and Ajax. See, that's so stiff because I think Ajax will do really well. Gee, that group is going to be tight. That group is going to be very, very tight. I'll back Rangers to make Europa. I'll just back them. All right, Group B. Group B, very exciting group. You'd think Atletico Madrid will top it based off just quality purposes and just experience. That they know what to do on the European stage. So I'll go Atletico top. I'll say Porto will finish second. I just rate their squad a little bit higher than I rate Leverkusen's. Club Brugge, I just don't think are up to the level. Group C, I think it'll be Bayern top. At a canter, by the way. I think Bayern Munich are going to be very dangerous this Champions League campaign. It wouldn't surprise me if Bayern win all of their games, put it that way, in that group. And you'd think Barcelona, right? You'd think Barca would have to get it done, but Inter are no slouch, so I could really see Barcelona dropping in the Europa League for a second consecutive year, which would be fucking just ridiculous. But no, I'll go Bayern 1, Barca 2. Surely, right? Surely. Group D, Frankfurt, Tottenham, Sporting, Marseille. Very competitive group. Of course, Frankfurt won the Europa League, thus making them the number one or in pot one. So I think Frankfurt will top the group, and I think Spurs will finish second. I just think Conte. The reason I say that is I think Conte will put a lot of emphasis on the league rather than the Champions League, and some cups and try and get the trophy. I think the Champions League is like the least likely trophy that they'll get. So yeah, I think they'll put a lot of emphasis into like the League Cup and the FA Cup to win those competitions. So I feel, and the Premier League of course. So I feel that they'll finish second in that group. But it'll be comfortable. I see them finishing second, but like by a point or goal difference or whatever. But yeah, Frankfurt 1, Tottenham second. Group E, Chelsea, Milan, Zagreb, and Salzburg. It's Milan, Chelsea 1-2. I think I'll back Chelsea to finish first in that group. You just think based on the quality that they've got. And Milan, mate, no slouches have actually got their top underneath this hoodie here. But yeah, I'll go Chelsea top, AC Milan second. Group F, Real Madrid, Celtic, Shakhtar, Leipzig. Boy, I want Ange Postecoglou to go over to the Bernabeu and take a scout. And while I don't think that'll happen, I'm backing Ange's boys to get through the group. I'm going to go Real Madrid first, Celtic second, because they won 9-0 on the weekend, which once again I'll touch on, and it was scintillating football. I know it was against Dundee United and not against Real Madrid, right? Though it was Steve Fletcher up top, not Karim Benzema, right? But I backed Ange. There's something about him, something about that team. I back him. I'm going to go with Celtic second, Real Madrid top. Group G, City, Sevilla, Dortmund, Copenhagen. Copenhagen, obviously, with Matt Ryan in goal, so he'll be coming up against some good opposition in that group. I think City will top it pretty comfortably, and I'll go with Dortmund second. Actually, Sevilla second. I think Sevilla will get the job done over Dortmund in their 2 games, which will carry them through into the round of 16. And Group G, Paris Saint-Germain, Juventus, Benfica, and Maccabi Haifa. I think that's how you pronounce it. I apologise. Yeah, PSG top, Juventus second. That's a cancer. I don't really see any other outcome. As I give some more predictions, I think the final, apologies if this final can't happen because of a draw. Actually, no, because it doesn't work in brackets. It just works like a draw. Okay, I reckon the final will be between Bayern Munich and Manchester City. I don't think Manchester City will win their maiden European or Champions League trophy. I think the signing of Haaland gets it over the line for them. I think that's what the signing of Haaland was there to do, to win them the Champions League, and I feel like it will drag them over the line and win them the Champions League, although Bayern will be very good. No doubt about it. Of course, Liverpool contender, Chelsea will be a contender, no doubt. PSG will be a contender, and of course Real Madrid, the reigning champions, will be up there, no doubt. But yeah, Bayern City final. I think City will get the job done. I just think Haaland is that player to just drag them over the line in that scenario. Top goal scorer, another let's just go player of the tournament. Let's go with it'll probably be Thomas Muller or something, just from out of nowhere. But I reckon player of the tournament, we'll go top goal scorer first. I feel like that's easier. Top goal scorer, we'll go with Haaland. I just feel like it probably will be him. A player of the tournament, it probably will come from City, but I won't go with someone from City. Player of the tournament, let's go Sadio Mane. Why not? Sadio Mane, I feel like he'll be the catalyst for Bayern Munich. He'll obviously plays up front, kind of in this pseudo 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3 system that Bayern Munich are deploying at the moment. I think Mane will be the player of the tournament, and Erling Haaland will be top goal scorer. As we move on away from the Champions League and move on to some transfers that have happened over or are going to happen in the coming days and have been announced midweek. Let's start with Wesley Fofana to Chelsea. Now, before I actually touch on the transfer itself, what is the bloke doing? He's been very public about his disapproval and discontentment at Leicester and really wants to come to Chelsea. So he's been doing stories and not training and all this stuff, which, I mean, a little bit of a red flag coming in from a Chelsea perspective, because you don't want these brats, as I call the Aubameyang, in your squad. But talent-wise, I think it's undeniable as we bring up his FB Ref scouting report. Once again, pinch of salt. It's just a good summary, and also he only played 810 minutes last year, so of course with that ACL injury. So once again, pinch of salt with all these stats, please. Aerial's one, very good, can carry the ball, very good with the ball at his feet, and defensively just solid, just really solid. He'll play in a back three, so he doesn't really need to be exceptional. He'll slide in quite comfortably alongside Koulibaly and Thiago Silva. Allows that depth with because obviously Chalobah is now staying, which is good because apart from Chalobah, Chelsea literally have Azpilicueta and Reece James and Cucurella, which is good. This will, of course, allow Reece James to play as that right wing back, which he is meant to be playing. He's not a right centre back. So yeah, I think the best probably defence that Chelsea could put out is Koulibaly, Thiago Silva, Fofana, Reece James, Ben Chilwell. I just rate him a little bit more than Cucurella at this stage. But yeah, it allows depth. Cucurella can play left centre back as well. Reece James can play right centre back. It's a necessity for Chelsea. As you bring up his average positions, his scouting report one more time. He has a lot of the attributes that Tuchel wants: dribbles completed, progressive carries, and passes and pass completion rate. All good enough for the Thomas Tuchel system, which he'll fit in perfectly. Nothing to really worry about there in that regard. I'm not really sure what the figure is floating around with. If it's, I don't know how many millions a week or the transfer fee will be, but once again, money, who really cares? It doesn't exist. Money in football doesn't exist, so who cares? And another explanation, or another kind of example of money not existing in football is Antony to Manchester United, £100 million. That is ridiculous money, utterly ridiculous money. And while it's a good signing, £100 million is just bonkers. He'll slot it on that right wing. He'll be the number one choice right winger. Has to be the number one choice right winger if you're spending £100 million on him. And he occupies that position similarly to Riyad Mahrez in a sense. He likes to hug the touchline but then cut inside. He doesn't really occupy the half spaces. He hugs the touchline but gets on his left foot and really drives kind of inwards, kind of like an L shaped. Hugs the touchline and cuts in at like a 90-degree angle. I think the more players that Ten Hag gets from Ajax and from his style of football, the better it is, because with Ajax last season, Antony was given that freedom on that right-hand side. As they focused their play down the left, he was given that freedom on the right-hand side to have a lot of space and to be one-on-one with his defender quite a bit. That's where he's best suited, and that's where he's able to show his class, when he's one-on-one, when he's got space, when he can do his little tricks and his little step-overs and his little twinkly toes. That's when he's best. You'd want to see a little bit more goal contributions from him. I'm not really sure how many he had last season, but if you're putting that price tag on him, you want to see a little bit more output for him. But I think this will be a good signing for United, because I just backed Ten Hag. And like I said with the Casemiro signing last week, I think this one, the opposite to what I said with the Casemiro signing last week, this is a Erik Ten Hag signing. This is a signing that has been approved by him and that has been chased by him and ticked all the boxes by Ten Hag. So, and there's no doubt when I say that. So, very positive, very, very positive signs for Manchester United, as Antony's a good player and they finally addressed that winger issue that they've had for a long, long time. Now they just need what do they even need now? Probably another central midfielder, and maybe another defensive midfielder as well. But yeah, finally United are starting to make some progress in the transfer market, and they probably need a striker as well. But another team that has identified a striker issue and that has got it is Newcastle. They've obviously signed Alexander Izak for ridiculous fee. It's something like 70 million. Now, this is probably the first signing that they've overpaid for, which is actually pretty good considering that they signed Byrne, Botman, Guimaraes, these other players. So, Izak didn't have a great season last year, bucket loads of potential, physically capable, technically capable as well, good finisher, experienced at the high level playing at Sociedad and these other clubs. Obviously played for Sweden in the Euros last year. So, yeah, I like this signing for Newcastle, a project player, maybe not a project player, but a player that they can kind of build with and like progress their kind of stocks with and really get up the leagues with. He'll grow with Newcastle is probably the point I'm getting at. So like the signing for Newcastle. It's a pretty good, one of the ones that kind of came out of left field. I thought they would have gone after someone like a Tammy Abraham or someone like a Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but no, they've gone big. They've gone Izak. They've gone to one of the best young strikers in Europe. So massive tick on my end for Newcastle. Although in saying that, he didn't have the best season last year, so we'll just have to wait and see. I do think his game style adapts well to the Premier League, so I don't think there's a big issue in terms of him transitioning from whatever league he was playing into to the Premier League. I think his game style suits the Premier League's physicality. So, they're my thoughts on those 3 signings in a pretty quick fire manner, because we've just ticked over 40 minutes. So I want to wrap this up pretty quickly. Let's touch on the 2 9-0 results, although I don't really know what to speak on about it because they're just 2 anomalies. Liverpool killed Bournemouth and Ange Postecoglou Celtic killed Dundee United. I think with 9-0s, it's kind of like, how do I describe it? I feel like I'd rather lose 9-0 than 5-0, in a sense, because 9-0 kind of seems like this result where it's like an anomaly, like a statistical anomaly that's like everything went wrong and for us, and like everything went right for them. And if you play that game 1,000 more times, it will never end 9-0 again, type thing. Like one in a million result type of scenario. So, I think 9-0. It's funny. Southampton fans have had the best weekend of their life. Finally getting over the fact that they lost 9-0 2 seasons in a row, which was fucking so bizarre. But 9-0 twice in a weekend into Celtic and Liverpool. Two teams that if you were to bet if you were to kind of put a bet on winning 9-0 would be paying the shortest odds. Just because they're both teams that can just turn it on in a flash and score a lot of goals quickly. So 2 9-0 was quite funny. I didn't watch the Liverpool game because I was watching Chelsea, and I watched the Celtic game and was laughing halfway through it. And also in the Celtic game, there was 1 minute stoppage time in the second half, even though it was 4-0 at half time. That was utterly bizarre. I think the fourth official was just like, all right, let's just get everyone home. Let's not make it 10. I can't even remember when the last 10-0 happened. Is 9-0 like is 9-0 kind of like the stop, and then you have 10-0 being like the really difficult, like no one. I can't remember the last time someone's hit double digits in a game or won 10-0. Fuck, I hope it happens this season. Imagine it happens this weekend. Imagine if Bournemouth win 9-0. I doubt it. I don't know who they're versing, but it would be quite funny. Let's see who they're versing. What are the odds of them winning 9-0? They're versing Forest away, so they're a chance. I doubt it'll happen, but they're a chance, and it'd be fucking hilarious if it happened. But 2 9-0s, quite funny, very entertaining. Ange Postecoglou's men are going all the way. Put it that way. Put it in the bank, I should say. Let's touch on our final talking point before we go on to who went in two-footed. It's the Paul Pogba thing. Now, this is, I just saw this morning. So basically, Paul Pogba is being blackmailed by his brother and some of his childhood friends. Now, I don't want to touch on this too long because I just don't really, I care, but like it's not really, it's not what I want to cover on this podcast, put it that way. But it shocked me. I hope everything's alright. I hope everything gets sorted. But being a professional footballer these days, it comes with its perks and comes with its cons. When you're rich and when you've had a lot of spotlight put on you and a lot of controversy surrounding you, these things could happen, which sucks. But hopefully everything gets fixed. Hopefully everything gets resolved. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. I hope everything gets resolved and everything can calm down, the correct authorities get involved, etc., and everything gets sorted by the time we speak this time next week. As we move on and as we finish up with who went in two-footed, it was basically, for those who haven't seen the previous episodes, let's just go through the week of football, who did something daft, funny, whatever. Just, you know what, like who went in two-footed, who did something daft, funny, dumb, idiotic, stupid, whatever. Now, I was actually going to go with the older shot managers kind of post-game interview or like pre-game interview, but that was actually from January this year, so I can't use it. It came to my timeline this week, but which pissed myself. Just go on, like, I can't remember. You'll be able to find it if you just type up older shop manager interview. It'll come up on Twitter. It's hilarious. It's so David Brent. It's so funny. I was going to go with that, but that was from January this year, so I can't use it. So I'm actually going to go with the thing that happened in the game that just happened. Tottenham 2, Forest 0, and that was Richarlison doing some keepy uppies, doing some tricks, and then getting absolutely flattened by a Forest player. Yeah, I like both aspects. I like the shithousery of the starts just flicking it up and doing keepy uppies in the middle of the pitch to waste time, and then I also love if you're going to do this, I'm going to crunch you and kill you. I love both of those kind of things. I like the cause and the effect. I thought it was great when I saw that. It put a smile on my face because it's quite bizarre and quite funny. But yes, that was who went into footed. As we move on and as we finish up with the preview of the week, some midweek Premier League games. So I'm definitely not going to get up at 4:30 to watch Chelsea versus Southampton, put it that way. Liverpool versus Newcastle is probably the biggest game in the midweek fixtures. Merseyside derby, Everton, Liverpool, early kickoff on the Saturday. And then you have any other interesting games. Arsenal versus United. So a battle of what was the shit teams. Now Arsenal are actually quite good and United are kind of good as well, surprisingly, because they beat Liverpool, which I called on this podcast, by the way. I said they're either going to win 2-1 or lose 5-0, and they won 2-1. So there you go. And the Champions League occurs this time next week, if that makes sense. Like, I'll speak about the Champions League first games this time next week. But yes, thank you all very much for watching. I appreciate you guys sticking around. Like I said at the start of the podcast, at the start of the episode, make sure you subscribe on all the socials. Follow me on Twitter; it'd be greatly appreciated. All the links are in the description of YouTube. Notification bell, like the podcast, subscribe, all the audio platforms, all the good stuff. It would mean the world to me. So stay well, stay safe. See you guys next time. Speak soon. Goodbye.